justice for all. Please remain standing for our Please remain standing for our national anthem. Thank you. You may now be seated. Greetings to our honored guests, students, faculty, and staff. We would like to welcome you to the 2023 Veterans Day program. Here at MVHS, we try to focus on the positive that each student and staff member brings to our school. The theme of this year's program extends that to each of you by seeing the good that veterans do in our community. We wish to thank and honor the men and women who have served in our armed forces and are a huge part of making us Valley strong. We are grateful for the opportunity to welcome you all here at Midland Valley High School. And students, we appreciate your respect for our guests and the dignified occasion for which we have gathered here. We would also like to welcome our honored guest, Colonel Gerald Eubanks, and we would like to thank all of the veterans who have joined us here today.
High School has a long history of service and strong ties with the military. Since 2020, 16 graduates are known to have enlisted in the U.S. Navy, the Marine Corps, and the U.S. Army. Tanner Hay, Malachi Kessler, Samuel Redon, Cade Wyatt, Chandler Lewis, Elijah Bauer, Brent Edwards, Tanner Mayweather, Justin Workman, Patrick Ruth, Gabriel Brown, Jackson Glover, and Bryce Heath. In addition to the recent graduates highlighted, many Mustangs alumni are currently serving our country. Midland Valley's strong ties to the military are evident in the fine faculty and staff who work in our school. At this time, we would like to ask all our veterans who are currently employed at MVHS to stand. And the district. Thank you. CMC Steve Crossland, Officer Kurt Hildebrand, Mr. Joshua Letko, Lieutenant Commander Jim Moore, and Mr. Thomas Roseman. Thank you all for your service to our country and your dedication to our community. At this time, please enjoy the MVHS choir sharing the patriotic hymn, Lift Every Voice, and sing Mr. Fisher. The history of Veterans Day in the United States can be traced back to the aftermath of World War I, one of the most significant conflicts in human history. World War I, often referred to as the Great War, involved a vast number of nations and had a profound impact on the world, both in terms of its scale and its consequences. On November 11, 1918, an event of monumental importance occurred that would set the stage for what would later become Veterans Day. On that day, an armistice, which is essentially a formal agreement to cease hostilities, was signed between the Allied powers and Germany, effectively ending the brutal and protracted conflict. This armistice marked the end of the fighting and was met with immense relief and jubilation on both sides of the conflict. President Woodrow Wilson recognized the significance of armistice and declared November 11, 1919 as the first commemoration of Armistice Day. As history unfolded, Armistice Day would evolve to become Veterans Day, encompassing the recognition of all veterans from all wars, not just World War I. This transition recognized the sacrifices of those who served in subsequent conflicts, including World War II and the Korean War, and ultimately reinforced the importance of honoring all American veterans.
At this time, the band will perform the Salute to the Armed Forces. Veterans, please stand to be recognized as your service song plays. And we invite those whose family members who have served in the different branches to stand when your song is heard.
We are honored to have Colonel Jerry Eubank here as our guest speaker this morning. He is a combat veteran that served for 28 years in the U.S. Army. He was assigned overseas in Vietnam, Korea, Japan, Saudi Arabia, and Belgium. Among his awards are the Department of Defense Superior Service Medal, Bronze Star, Vietnamese Cross of Gallantry, Air Medal, Meritorious Service Medal, and Army of Commendation Medal. Colonel Eubanks exemplifies our theme of seeing the good our veterans do in our community. After the Army, continued serving in a different role, that of a teacher and coach. Colonel Eubanks has taught and coached at the Roanoke Catholic School in Roanoke, Virginia, Christiansburg Middle School in Christiansburg, Virginia, and was a volunteer teacher for Ali at Clemson University, where he taught Middle and Far Eastern history. In fact, teachers, if you'd like a guest teacher for the day, Colonel Eubank says he is still available to teach. Colonel Eubank is active in his church, the St. Augustine of Canterbury Episcopal Church in Aiken, participating in volunteer service and supporting our local community. Please join me in welcoming Colonel Jerry Eubank.
I hope everyone can hear me. I am honored to be at Midland Valley. It's great when a school takes the opportunity to honor veterans, because we all appreciate it. And I guess I should preface my remarks by saying, go Mustangs! On a Friday in fall, there are many things that are more important, and a football game is one of them. And I really do mean go Mustangs. I am not verbose. I will not waste your time. The remarks I have are more of what I did in the Army that wasn't necessarily Army, but what I did to provide a service to the community in which I lived, whether it be on a military installation or whether it be within the civilian community. I learned in the military from various schools, but I think more importantly, I learned the value of service. I learned to become a coach. Basketball, football, soccer, cross country. And I applied that to the various communities. I volunteered my time to coach youth sports. I volunteered my time to work in food pantries. I volunteered my time to provide something back to the community in which I lived. And after 28 years in the military, I decided that the one thing I wanted to do was to become a school teacher and to become a coach. And so that's what I set out to do. And in doing that, I wound up not only coaching the women's varsity basketball team, of which that was an experience in itself. I coached varsity football, and I coached soccer. And not only did I apply those skills that I had learned in the military by attending coaching clinics to the high school where I taught and coached, but I applied them also within the civilian community. I turned my attention to looking at youth sports and providing my skill set, whatever it might be, to the community in volunteerism. I think that's the important thing you learn from the time that you spend in the military. And it really doesn't make any difference what branch of service you serve in. We are all volunteers. And I think key words that we can remember in the military is duty, honor, country, and service. And I applaud you for attending this wonderful high school. You have a golden opportunity. Don't let it escape you. Serve. Give back. Be a true member of your community. And as I said, I'm not very verbose. I do like to leave opportunity for anybody to ask a question. I'll be happy to try and answer it. If I have the answer, I'll give you the answer. If I don't have the answer, I'll tell you that. And if there, like I said, if anybody wants to ask me anything, I'll attempt to answer it. But I thank you again for giving me this opportunity to stand before you and just say thank you.
Do we have any students who have a question, or community members who have a question for Colonel Eubanks about service or about, over here? How do you, I'm sorry? How do they join the military? Okay, do you have any information about how students can?
Best way to join the military is to go to your local recruiter, whether it be the Marine Corps, the Air Force, the Navy, Coast Guard, Army. They're out there, and that's the easiest way. I entered the military from college. I'm a graduate of the Virginia Military Institute, and so I went into the military looking to serve only a couple of years, which extended to 28. And that was basically because of I volunteered to go to various schools. I thought it would be fun. I didn't realize that each time I volunteered to go to a school, they tacked on another year of staying in the military. So I thought becoming a parachutist would be a wonderful thing to do, learn how to jump out of airplanes. Well, I did that, and they added another year, and I said, well, maybe I would have learned to fly the airplanes. And I did that, and they added on 2 or 3 more years. And by the time I finished the schools I went to, I stayed in for 28 years. We have 2 sons. One is in the Navy, one is in the Army. They are veterans, they're still serving. And yeah, you go to a recruiter. Is the military life for everyone? No, I can't stand up here and say that it is. If you go, you'll know soon enough if it's something that you want to do. And I realized that that was what I wanted to do. That was my vocation in life. My vocation in life was to serve my country and to remain in the military for as long as I basically wanted to. And the 28 years was predicated on the simple fact that the youngest son graduated from high school, so I said, okay, I'll graduate from the Army. But no, the service is a good life, but not for everyone. Anyone else?
We've got a microphone coming over, so we can hear your question a little better. Thank you.
Hello? Out of the 28 years, have you ever regretted doing it? Out of everything that you've seen out of the 28 years, out of all the places you've been, have you ever regretted it in the end?
I never regretted anything that I did. Some things are things that you'd like to forget, maybe. especially in combat. Those things, yeah, maybe you regret some of them, but they're things that you'd rather forget and not look back on. The other things I did in the military, I'm very fortunate that I did many jobs and had many opportunities. And I think that's what I liked best, was I wasn't stuck in one place doing one thing for 28 years. But I had the ability to work for NATO in Belgium. I had the ability to be the chief of leadership at Fort Knox, Kentucky. I had the ability to be an instructor at what is now Fort Moore, was Fort Benning, Georgia. And I lived and worked in Japan, Korea, and Saudi Arabia. Opportunities that I would not have had I not been in the military. So I do not regret my military service at all. Anyone else?
We have time for one more question, if anyone has one.
Well, I will preface again, I'm being invited today. And by the way, for those that are in the Marine Corps, before I entered the Army as a second lieutenant, I was in the Marine Corps platoon leaders course in college and decided that, oh, well, I was only going to be in for 2 years, so I'll stay in the Army. Little did I know.
My question is, will you do it again? Like everything.
Say it again.
Would you do it again?
Would you do it again?
Oh, in a minute. In a minute.
In a minute!
There is no question. There is no doubt in my mind. I'm 83 years old, and there is no doubt in my mind that I would go back and do the same things that I did. Now, I will say this, if I had known I was going to stay in that long, I had passed the Naval Flight Training Program, and I had been selected to go as a Marine to Pensacola to flight training school. And the Marines will tell you that the best 10% of the Navy pilots are Marine pilots.
That's it. Y'all want me to ask a question as well? In that case, sir, what I would go ahead and ask you is there any question that we have not asked you that you want to answer, particularly for these young folks?
I have never been asked a question that I didn't feel appropriate, and if it was not appropriate, I just didn't answer it. So I'll answer just about anything within reason.
Well, what I mean for that, sir, is most recently I did the military history detachment course, and that's a good closing question because a lot of times there's something on the mind of the interviewer that they haven't been asked. So that's what I was asking, is there something that you want to answer that we haven't asked you?
Not that I can think of.
All right. What was the biggest challenge switching from Colonel 06 to teaching high school? What was that?
What was the biggest challenge switching from a colonel to teaching in high school?
Absolutely nothing. I walked into the classroom. They had never had a male teacher before. And I wrote up on the board, Jerry Eubank, Colonel, United States Army Special Forces. And that's all. And I looked at my students, and they looked at me, and And to this day, we still correspond with one another. And they have their children, but when I said quiet, they were quiet. When I said sit down, they sat down. They were respectful, and they paid attention. And that was all I ever asked of my students. I only asked that they, one, pay attention, and two, that they be respectful. And I never had a class where I had to do anything. So there was no transition from being an Army colonel to being a high school teacher.
Thank you, Colonel Jerry Eubank. As veterans know, serving in the armed forces carries significant risks. Many veterans return home injured physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Of those, 1 in 5 has attempted suicide. Since 2003, the Wounded Warrior Project has been working with post-9/11 veterans to provide support and resources to help people heal and find peace. The Midland Valley High School Leadership Academy completes service projects in order to benefit our community each month. This month, in honor of veterans, we have selected to support the Wounded Warrior Project. Following this program, students have signed up to participate in a walk through our community to support this endeavor. Honored guests, you are invited to join us in this walk on foot or to follow the procession in your vehicle by lining up on Mustang Drive in front of the school. All proceeds and donations from this event will benefit the Wounded Warrior Project. Thank you for helping us to follow your example in service.
We would like to thank you all for joining us here this morning in observance of Veterans Day and in recognition of those people within our community and our school who have served in America's armed forces. Our annual reflection upon the armistice or truce that went into effect on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month of 1918 helps us to remember the important purpose of Veterans Day as a celebration to honor America's veterans for their patriotism, their love of their country, and their willingness to serve and sacrifice for the common good. Won't you please give one last round of applause to our veterans, our guests, and to our student organizations that participated in our program today. Thank you. At this time, we invite our visiting veterans, guests, and our guest speaker to follow our student ushers to the Media Center for some refreshments and a fellowship. We will call for participants in the Wounded Warrior Walk to join us walking or driving at the front of the building in a few minutes. Listen, please. Students, as we dismiss, you're going to return to your first block, and then we will follow the regular schedule for the rest of the day. Thank you for joining us this morning. Thank you for joining us this morning, and have a great day.